Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Straight Outta BS podcast. Thank you guys so much again for your support. I have been having a lot of fun making new designs for my merch store. So that's like right below this video. There's a store icon if you're interested in that. Thank you to all my Patreon members and anybody that's donated. It's not expected, but everything is super appreciated. It all goes back into the podcast to improve it. So I do everything by myself. So sometimes it gets a little overwhelming, but I want to do a moment of silence for the person still struggling with intrusive thoughts or anything like that. So on the count of three, I'm going to do a moment of silence. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you for that. And without further ado, I want to go ahead and introduce my guest for the day. Go ahead and introduce yourself and where you went and what year.
Hi there, my name's Eve Greenco, and I went to Cross Creek Manor Programs Academy. They had a bunch of different names. I originally got sent December 21st, I believe, 2005. And then I graduated August 2007, and then I was actually a retread, and I got sent back. It was, again, sometime in the middle of December 2007, and then I left after I graduated high school, technically, because that's why I got sent back, supposedly. And then that was for another few months, and I think I left there again at like April 2008. So.
Okay, sorry, I had to fix my window.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good. So yeah.
Can you walk us through what your childhood was like and what led up to being sent to the program?
Sure. So I was adopted when I was very, very, very young. I was 3 months old, but I always knew about being adopted. Like, my dad wrote me a cute little book, and we colored it together, and like I still have it. I still cherish it. My dad was always a working man. He provided for me and my mom. Suburban, middle suburban, blue collar life. My mom was a psychologist. She went to school. We moved around a lot. So every time we moved, she would go back to school to get her license in that state. We had a very estranged relationship. He was very distant, even though she was like around, she wasn't around. We'd be constantly fighting. She thought it'd be a good idea if I met my biological mom when I was 12. So we tried that to see if things would help. Didn't really help our relationship at all. And we just kind of drifted apart because I was kind of like a daddy's girl, like in terms of like we would always like do art and stuff when I was younger, and then we didn't when I was a little older. Obviously, we just kind of like drifted away. And then my mom was just really jealous of our relationship. So she got distant, and then that left me kind of like an only child on my own. Didn't know my roots, didn't know who I was. And the moving around a lot kind of kept me from having like a solid group of friends. Always being like the new girl, the strange girl, the whatever girl. Never really fit in. My mom said that I would always root for the underdog. So I was always kind of like there for like the outside kids, the weird kids, whatever. But in their eyes, because I was a Girl Scout and I did gymnastics and I did ballet, I was like popular kid in their eyes, so I didn't really fit in anywhere. So when I moved to California when I was 12, I tried really hard to fit in. I would say like, oh yeah, I've had sex before, I did this, just trying to like fit in. But I struggled a lot just trying to find like my group, my calling. And before I got to Cross Creek, I had started to dabble. Like, I was like smoking weed, ditching school a lot because I was the cheerleader with purple hair. Calling my dad in the bathroom, just crying because like like I said, it didn't fit in anywhere. And I think it was maybe a month or two before I got sent. Like, I had tried like harder stuff like crystal meth and stuff, which obviously that was not good. But all I really needed was, some sort of I needed a parent, you know, and my dad was never around, and my mom was too jealous and up her own ass to do anything about it. She tried a bunch of therapy. She tried putting me on a lot of prescription drugs because she thought that would help because that's her field. That's what that's all she knew. Um, so I found myself at Cross Creek, you know, a few days before Christmas, and 2 weeks before my sweet 16. And I'll never forget. I wish I have a box of all these letters somewhere, and I just couldn't find it before this interview, unfortunately. But the first letter, when you first go to Cross Creek, your parents send you like this. This is why you're here. Like, we love you, but like, we need distance. Got to figure it out, type of thing. And I'll never forget. My mom had included this picture of the Christmas tree, and just the tree where she had an ornament that said "It's all Eve's fault." I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. Thanks for that. And I will never forget that picture. Um, but that's when, you know, it was just I got to the grind. I worked my program. I faked it right off the bat. I heard about, you know, if I was bad, I was gonna go to isolation, and all the girls were like, "You don't want to go there. You don't want to go there. Like, do whatever you can and not go there." I was like, okay, and like, you know, my dad always said I was a good salesman, so I I flew under the radar, did all my seminars like on time every 2 months. You know, I had to orientation, and then the next month I just moved right up through it all the way to principals. And then when I was on a higher level, I actually dropped. Sorry if I'm going too fast. I'm like kind of like speedballing into everything.
It's totally fine. It's totally fine. I can redirect you back with questions, so just continue.
Okay. So I got put on silence from this one girl because I was originally in D group with Brian because he was the adoption therapist. And one of my I became friends with this girl named Tessa, who she's no longer with us. She was in a car accident like almost a decade ago. But we became really, really close. And during this whole process, my hair was like really crazy colors, and my family rep was like, maybe if we dye your hair, maybe like, you know, you'll feel more confident about moving up in your program, because I couldn't get to level 4. I couldn't get the votes. I just kept on sabotaging with like not being eligible. So she's like, maybe this will help your confidence. So we went and dyed my hair, but the staff that took us was this woman named Miss Asia, and me and Tessa both wanted to stay in contact when we got out. So we gave Miss Asia our MySpaces. Actually, this is how long ago this was. So I ended up dropping for that. And that was the only time I ever dropped in my program. Because I don't even know how they found out. Because I know I didn't rat out myself. So yeah, that's actually still a mystery to me how they found that one. That was the only time I ever dropped in my program. And I switched groups, and then I went to N group, and I became a Garth girl and finished my days out there. When after I graduated, my parents wanted me to do my senior year at high school, which is like a new school because we had moved. Like I said, we kept on moving around a lot. So it was a new school. Of course, it's senior year. Everyone's got their little cliques and their niches and this and that. So there I am, like, program girl. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to function. I'm trying to figure that out your senior year. I just got really overwhelmed. Started smoking cigarettes again. Started smoking weed again. And not even halfway through the year, obviously, I said, fuck this. I'm just gonna drop out, get my GED. I'm gonna go to cosmetology school. And my parents were like, oh no, you're not. And then they shipped me right back. And I'll never forget when I first got there. This girl, one of the girls there, she came up to me and she's all, we all knew you were gonna come back. I was like, oh, okay, thanks. Cool. Good to know. But what was really frustrating about it is because I graduated. I made one of these bad boys, my life contract. And I remember we did this one thing where it was like at the end of the day, you were supposed to like see how many points you got. We ran the same stupid point system that all programs freaking did. And I remember sitting there at the end of the day, like, okay, where are my parents to like rate me on how I did today because I tried to, stick to it. Not once did they ever do anything in this contract. Not once. So for them to, you know, be surprised that I went back. I mean, I guess it wasn't really such a surprise, but I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, it's their fault for not, upholding it. But I mean, they had accountability in it too.
Yeah.
So even though I hate using that word and I hate that phrase, but it's pretty accurate.
Yeah. Um, when you got there, do you remember them giving you any physical role manual at all, or do you remember them just buddying you up with somebody?
Both. I remember, I don't even know if I have a lot of my seminar stuff. I think I only have the seminar stuff in my notebook, in this notebook. Yeah, I don't have the rules, but I remember being handed a rule book. Um, you know, I remember being there and my lips being really chapped because of the altitude, and I was like, "Oh, can I use your chapstick?" And the girl's like, "Oh, you can't," because you weren't allowed to share or like, help each other out because they said it was because of hygiene or whatever, which is whatever a reasonable explanation now post COVID. But back then, everyone shared their chapstick. But like,
Yeah.
I can't. I'm like dying, and she can't help me. No, I have to earn it. Had to earn that right. Had to earn chapstick. Had to earn my shoelaces, the whole nine. Um, and I remember the girl that I was actually hope buddied with. She wasn't in the most stable state of mind. That poor girl like really needed help. But she actually got so overwhelmed. I was on the top bunk, she was on the bottom bunk, and at night she's like, I hate you, I'm gonna kill you. And she's like kicking my bunk, like trying to like flip me off the bunk, and like she ended up having to go to ISO and she dropped for that. But that was like one of my first, like within my first week of being there, like that I'm like, oh my God, what am I like, what kind of shit show is this place? Like, what is going on? So then I got a different hope buddy, obviously, but
Okay.
just a wild first few days. I was coming down too, so I was like, I'm not gonna do any of this. I tried to sleep in during the day because I couldn't sleep that first night. And they're like, oh no, you're gonna go to ISO. You're gonna go to ISO. Everyone was like, you don't want to do that because that's where a lot of the actual like physical abuse like happened. Which luckily I never experienced that, minus like what the seminars tried to do, but I never got the punishment side, which I'm blessed to have not experienced that. And knowing how sassy I am, I'm surprised I didn't get that. Um, but I just hear all the horror stories of my girlfriends. You'd hear the screaming happening. You would see the takedowns happening. And that was for me. That was for me. Just seeing that happen to like other girls was traumatic enough. Um, but yeah, that was instilled on day one. You don't want to go. You don't want to go to ISO. Don't get in trouble. Just put your head down, put your shields up, walk the line, you'll be good. So that worked for 90% of my program, minus that one time I dropped.
Okay. Did you get
Luckily.
transported, or did your parents bring you up there?
I got transported both times. The first time, I had come back at like 9 o'clock in the morning after being up all night, being a degenerate, whatever. And we were supposed to be flying to New York for Christmas. And I walk into the living room expecting like get in the car to go back to the airport, and there's two people sitting on my couch and they're like, we're gonna be taking you to Utah. And I'm just like, okay, whatever, yeah, sure, like I'll go with you, just entertain you. Like I was really compliant. I didn't need cuffs or anything, luckily. I just thought it was a big joke, like, oh, they're trying to scare me, they're just trying to scare me, this is fine because my dad couldn't be without me, blah 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 blah. And then the second time though, I did not go willingly. I was kicking, I was screaming, I was like just trying to kick the window out of the car. Like it was a middle of the night type bullshit. And I I'm surprised they didn't. I don't think they cuffed me. Actually, I think they had my hands in cuffs, but they didn't have any for my feet. So that's why I kept kicking. It's like I did not, I couldn't, and I did. So
Okay. How long after you got there did it take for you to fully for everything to fully sink in?
I think, well, because I got there right before Christmas. I was like, oh, I'll be back before Christmas. I think it was like once I was like, oh shit, I'm here for Christmas, which was only 4 days after my first time. I was just like, oh, well, they couldn't leave me for my Sweet 16. Oh, they did. And then after that, I was like, okay, they ain't playing. The second time, they were like, oh, we'll let you go out when you finish high school. And I was like, okay. Finished high school in like 3 weeks. I was like, let's do it. Let's get this going. And this education there was such BS that it was so easy for me to just be like, okay, I'm done. I didn't hardly need any credits anyways. So I did what I needed to do. They still kept me for another like 3 months after that. That was one of the only girls that they've ever told their exit plan to. So I knew what I was gonna lose if I took my exit plan. So I just stayed like believing that, okay, tomorrow they're gonna let me out. Tomorrow they're gonna let me out. For 3 months, they let me ride that dream just because they were trying to milk my parents out of, more rent money. So
Yep. How long after you got there did they put you through your first seminar? And what was your first seminar? Was it orientation or discovery?
it was orientation. This was back when they had orientation still. I don't know if I have a date on it, but I because they did them every 2 months. So I think orientation had to have been that February. So about 2 months, that's what it was. I had just missed the seminars when I got sent. So I had to wait for the next one. So it was 2 months. So I had 2 months of proper training, just act right in orientation and kind of see what was going on if you messed up.
Okay. And what was your experience of the seminars? Did you struggle with them? Like what?
I mean, I never got kicked out of a seminar, so I like I said, I just breezed through the program. I never had to redo any of them. I remember during discovery, I think it is, with the towel process. I remember them sitting, like having us all sit there with our eyes closed, and they were like, picture your happy place. Now, I didn't know this back then, but I have aphantasia, which is where I don't have a mind's eye. So if you tell me to close my eyes and picture something, I just see black. Like, I don't see anything. I didn't know this was a thing. So I'm sitting there in this seminar, like panicking. I'm like, they know I can't see anything. They know. Or like, I remember thinking, like, do people actually see stuff? I guess they do. I'm like one of the 1% that doesn't. But I just remember being like, oh, they're going to know if I fake it. They're going to know if I lie. Like, I don't have a happy place. Like, I was like, because I like the beach and I like the mountains. So they were like trying to have us like pick one or the other. I'm like, I don't know what to do right now. Like, I don't have an automatic go-to. But I just remember being so traumatized that like they knew what was going on in my little brain. And then just like the processes, like the humiliation, um, if you weren't like crying enough, like you got kicked out automatically. And luckily I can turn that shit on like at the drop of a hat. So like I said, had no problems like getting through it. Um, but I just remember just seeing people that I know that were working like hard and were trying and being vulnerable, being open, and like just seeing them get chosen out just because they weren't doing it how the facilitators wanted. And then they had to suffer for another 2 months and try it again, right? I actually staffed a seminar with my mom. I think I staffed a discovery
Interesting.
with her. And funny enough, I I laugh at the effort that she tried to put in. And I don't know if I can say this little side story real quick. Um, but with being there and having all this therapy and these seminars, having to divulge so much and having to give them this confession letter, not once did my mom ever say anything about like a sexual assault that I had when I was younger that happened with my neighbors. Like me and this girl watched this video, like an adult video or whatever, and we fooled around or whatever. And I'm like 7 at this time. And then I was like, oh, this is something that you do with your friends. And she was a little bit older than me. So I turn around and try to do this with my church friend. She runs and crying and tells her mom tells my mom, and then it comes to light. but like she brushed it under the rug. Like apparently my dad never even knew about it because I brought it up to him like a while ago because I forgot about all this. I forgot that all this even happened. So at Cross Creek, I never talked about any of it. Like just because she made me just sweep it under the rug, and I don't know if she hypnotized me to like forget about it or what, but it never came up, not once. And then do you think that she would be like, hey, do you remember this? If she really wanted me to get proper help when I was there, don't you think she would have like like at least once so I could get like proper therapy? But she knew she was a licensed therapist. She knew that she was just taking an easy route. She copped out, and that was somebody else's problem now. She didn't care if I got the proper help. So yeah, it's some marriage and family counselor she is.
What did you think about the lifeboat process and focus?
The lifeboat. I remember I was not on any boat. I was on no one's boats.
Okay.
I remember that, and me having moved around and everything, that, you know, not having a solid group of friends. I was like, oh, this is just who I am, and you know, I kind of let that reflect into a lot of my life, like even past Cross Creek. I know that they were trying to like lead us to the other message, but none of us took that message away. Like we only got that like I'm not on a boat type of thing. Like I deserve this.
Definitely, yeah. How many people would you say on average were there when you got there, and how many people would you say were there when you left, like both times, if you had to make an estimation? Doesn't have to be like exact, but
I think when I first got there, it was like a higher 200s for just the girls. I'm not sure about the boys. I think I was told the boys had a least like a lower count, like they were like lower 200s, maybe higher 100s. So that would put us at what?
4 or 5.
Four plus.
Yeah.
And then the second time I went back, I felt like it was just the same. Maybe the boys side. I think I felt like the boys had more on their side because they were kind of building, but I could be wrong. But it felt like the same amount, like around 400 plus on both included.
Okay. And were you put on medications or taken off medications at all when you were there?
I was put on medications. I was put on Adderall for my ADD, but I had been on Adderall before. So we're just continuing that. But then when I was there, they put me because of the sleep, like the hard sleep schedule. I was like, I can't go to bed at 7:30. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm just like a night owl. Like, that's how I'm wired. So they gave me Wellbutrin to sleep. No, they gave me trazodone to sleep. And then I was on Wellbutrin for my manic depressive disorders. But I think those are like the three main ones that I remember.
Okay. Yeah. Do you remember feeling like a zombie, like drugged up, or was it just like a regular dose of like what you would regularly be taking at home?
Well, see, I would never take them at home. I would always have the fireplace because I hated taking meds. So I wasn't like properly taking them at home to compare, but I do remember like I remember when they started me on the trazodone, I was like, that made me feel like such a zombie. Like I couldn't function the next morning because they had me so doped up on it. And like when I complained about it, I feel like they just upped my Adderall to kind of counteract that. Instead of just toning back the trazodone a little bit. But we didn't have access to any of that. They just took the pills in your mouth and then you had to go, hold ants, whatever. So I couldn't like cheek them and check to make sure that they were giving me the proper doses. And who knows if they were giving me the proper pills,
Yeah.
So
what did you think of the food there? Was it horrible? Was it bearable? Was it good?
So when I retreaded, I told Miss Mel, I was like, it's just because I missed your oatmeal, which I still think Miss Mel made the most fire oatmeal, but that was about it. Everything else was pretty garbage. I was lactose and vegetarian, so I will never eat tomato soup with toast ever again in my life because I swear for months that was like the only thing they would give the vegetarians was tomato soup. And because I was lactose, I couldn't have the grilled cheese to even make it any better. And so the food was pretty foul. I mean, some of the meals I was grateful to have the tomato soup over whatever slop they were getting. I'll never forget the SpongeBob eggs. Yeah, it was pretty. It was pretty awful. I remember when I first got there, there was Cholula, and then I don't know what happened, but somebody abused the privilege or made it so that we didn't have Cholula. So yeah, I don't like milk because there was always milk, a glass of milk with every meal, guaranteed. Yeah, there's some things that I can't eat because of there, but I just remember everybody. Someone asked in one of our groups, like, "What was the privilege of working kitchen?" And I was just like, seconds, being able to eat more because sometimes the food wasn't enough. Or at least with the seconds, you could get more of the food that you did like and didn't have to eat the nasty stuff.
Yeah.
But I would say at Cross Creek we did get adequate portions for the most part, as opposed to some schools that I've heard where, I can't compare, but where it sounds like they didn't get much, like they're just scraping by. But it definitely wasn't the most appetizing.
Did you get to go to the library when you were there? And if so, did you read any good books?
So we did get to go to the library a few times. Maybe it was a more regular thing. I just don't know. Because I do remember I read all the Harry Potter books because growing up, when I was 10 years old, like that was my whole childhood. Like all my classrooms, all the teachers, we did Harry Potter parties. But my parents were so Christian religious, I wasn't allowed to read Harry Potter. So I was just sitting there like, I don't know what's going on. So flash forward to when I'm at Cross Creek and I'm on one of my phone calls with them and I'm like, oh, what'd you guys do over the weekend? They're like, oh yeah, we went to Joe and blah blah blah's house and we watched Harry Potter. And I was like, you what? So flash forward me being a 17-year-old girl going to this Cross Creek library, getting all the books I could and speed reading them. I think I read the whole series in like a month.
Yes.
So that's the only thing I ever remember. But everything else was like the forced self-help books that we were required to read.
Okay, hold on a second. I'm gonna close my door.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good. You're good.
Because of the siren.
You're good.
Okay, what was the hardest part about being there for you, and how did you deal with it?
The hardest part was probably being even more distant from my family because being adopted and an only child, like all I had was my cousins and stuff. And like I really enjoyed going back for the holidays to New York and back to South Carolina to go visit with them because they were like the only family that I really had. And missing those 3 years, like I came out and like I don't think I've seen any of my mom's side of the family, like any of those cousins. My dad would take me back to New York every so often, so I did see like my aunt has 9 kids, so I got to like be with them. Um, but it still put a strain on that relationship. Um, what have I done about it? Honestly, I'm really bad at upkeeping my relationships. Um, I I feel like Cross Creek just took me out of the loop so much, and I was just never able to like fit myself back in. At least to where where I was satisfied, I guess. Um, so I let a lot of those fall to the wayside. Just became like a really big introvert. Really bad at answering calls or texts. Really bad at just replying in general. I'm the girl that's like, oops, sorry, it's been a year. Like, how was that one party you invited me to? Like, I don't know. It's my social life has been hard too, for sure.
Okay. And how long were you there both times?
So the first time, I think it was like 18 or 19 months. I think it was 19 months. And then I got sent back for another like 4 months. So 23, 24 months total.
Okay. And how long did it take you to get to level 4?
Let's see. I think I got level 4 after like 9 or 10 months. can't remember if I dropped before I got level 4, because I think I was struggling to get level 4, and then I dropped, and then I switched groups, and then after I switched groups, and after I became a Garth girl. And I think that was 10 months to a year after being in the program.
Okay. And what was the hardest, like, what have you struggled with the most because of the program?
Besides my social thing that I mentioned, probably getting proper help. Like the idea or the word or the thought of therapy just like pigeonholes me and just traumatized. Like, I'm just like a deer in the headlights. I'm like, you want to what? That just sounds like a bad idea, especially because even before Cross Creek, my mom had it so forced on me. Seeing like creepy doctors all the time, it just like really set a bad like taste in my mouth. But that's because I didn't want it. I was fighting it, and then the Cross Creek stuff where it was like not licensed at all. And then the cruel ways they made therapy work for you just scarred me. So it has been an idea that I know I need to get proper treat, have like a therapist at least or something, do some hypnosis, but it's just getting over that trauma. It's been a journey, just trying to find somebody in general, somebody that I trust. It is.
Okay. If you could go back in a time machine and not go through this place, knowing what you know now, would you do it, and why?
Would I not go back?
Yeah, if you go back in a time machine and not go back knowing what you know now.
I would definitely not go back.
Okay.
I mean, I feel like I know that there were a lot of things that I've learned about myself and like that some people don't realize about life or how to treat people before they die, but it was just like the methods of delivery. Like there has to be a better way. Like just having a properly licensed therapist for one, having it in a smaller setting where I'm not just a unit or a number or, a price tag. There has to be a better way. But to that specific place, hell no. I hate to be so, and I know there's a lot of girls out there that are pro program and that I know that it's helped them. So I definitely don't want to knock them for whatever, but
Your experience is your experience. You're
yeah,
totally fine.
it's
Let's see. Was there anything positive about your experience? If not, that's totally fine. And yeah, let's start there. And what was the worst part about your time there?
my
The
worst
worst
part.
part? Yeah.
The worst part, um, was probably not having music. I was always a big dancer, so like not having music, um, was probably the worst for me. Um, and not being able to dance and all that stuff. I think you asked also the best part too.
If there is anything, it's
All
totally
my
fine.
sisters, all my brothers and sisters, but mostly my sisters because we didn't get to talk to the brothers back then. But all of my girlies, I mean, I may not have like friends like that I hang out with that I've met post program, but I know that I will always have my program girls to like talk to if I'm having like, in my darkest times, like things that I don't feel comfortable telling anybody, even to myself in the mirror. I know that I can tell them and like they'll give me like, advice if I'm asking for it or a shoulder if I need it. Um, but yeah, definitely them.
Okay. And did you struggle with any hard drugs when you got out?
So post program, I became a little party girl. So I mean, I dabbled in a lot of party things. Would I say addictions? I dabbled with like the harder stuff, but I would like do it for a weekend. I'm like, oh, okay, what am I doing with myself? Like this is dumb. And then I would stop. And then, like I think I had like one more downfall, like a couple years later. And then I was like, why am I doing this to myself? But it was only for like a weekend. So not addiction, but definitely a dabbler.
Okay. Okay. And where are you at with your parents? Have you talked to your parents about how this place affected you? Have they seen the program? Do you think you could ever forgive your parents? I've forgiven my parents, but I'll never forget what they did to me. So where are you with your parents?
So I actually had a conversation with my dad, like a few years ago about the program, and he like broke down. He started crying, and he was like, I think it was when I was bringing up all the sexual assault stuff that my mom had under the rug. And he was just like, I'm so sorry. He was like, I hated it. I hated every moment of it. Like, if I could, I would, done something different. So he's had this moment of realization, and we still have a strained relationship. Like, he's still Mr. Workaholic, and it's hard to even just get him to spend like make time for me. Whatever, that's a whole other thing. But and I've asked him to watch the program, but he rarely watches TV as it is. And when he does, he doesn't even like to watch sad stuff, which I don't either. So I don't blame him. But I told him, I was like, hey, like this would really mean a lot. And he said, okay. So I don't know where that's gonna go. I mean, I already got my piece with him. And I know he knows it wasn't a good place and that he feels bad. So I don't need any more, out of him. My my mom though on the other side though, I want her to watch it and I want her to feel bad, but she is so stuck in her ways that I think she would just blow it all off. But we've been in no contact for years, so I haven't even talked to her, asked her. But I did find out from my aunt that she has dementia, so she can, enjoy hell in every little crazy dimension that she can think of. Um, but yeah,
Okay.
so
And,
some resolutions, some not.
okay. And is it your belief that these places could or should or even could be fully regulated, or is it your belief that they need to be shut down? The remaining schools.
My hope is that they could be regulated better. Like I said, maybe like downsizing the numbers, making it more focused, not having to send your kid to an entire different state, not having the transportation system. But the likelihood of that happening very slim because I mean, even in like, foster care, which has been around way before programs everywhere, that still isn't even regulated very well. So my hopes for regulation is very slim, but I won't lose that glimmer of hope. But I prefer for them to be shut down. Yes, for at the moment until we can guarantee the regulation, I think that just shutting them down would just be a lot easier. If your kid has a drug problem, take them to a proper drug, facility, get them proper licensed therapy if they need it. Like, do something different. It's not just up to the kid to change and be different. It's up to the entire family to be active in that change process, I feel like. Um,
Okay. And do you have any guilt from your time at the program? I know that you were an upper level, so do you have any guilt about like consequenting people or anything like that?
I am so sorry for all of these that I ever put out and all of the agreeds and well, what was the other word we would always use? Oh God, I black that out probably, but I'm so sorry for just the ganging up mentality and, just to show up and to be present and, demonstrating. Just, there were so many times when I didn't want to do something and I just wanted to give a girl a great big hug, but instead I had to like shame her or whatever. Um, I know I was a little lenient because even my Hope buddy was like, because we were talking the other day and she was like, I know you let me slide with a few things. She's all like, I'm really thankful for that. I'm like, you're not supposed to tell anybody, but I was a little bit of a like, oh, I didn't see it type of gal for the most part, but in like group settings where like the therapist was there, Ron was there, or whatever, like I did get caught up in doing the act.
Okay. And did you ever get forced to like admit things that never happened or like what's the word like elaborate on things like that you didn't need to, if you know what
So
I
I
mean, like add details that didn't actually happen?
There was actually I wish I pulled it out because there's a lot here, but there was one thing where I was like, oh, I want to be more open about my abortion, which I had never had one, like I remember reading it in this like recently and I was like, I said that? I really said that? And nobody called me out on it, like, because I didn't know what the symptoms were. I didn't know what the procedure was, and like nobody called me out for lying for that. Like, it's a pretty big one,
Yeah.
But I think that was one of the only things that I can remember, and I even forgot about it. I had to read it to remember, but because I was a little bit sexually active. I did dabble in a little, I was smoking weed or whatever. Like, so I did have content for them to be satisfied. And plus the whole adoption thing, which is a whole other beast on its own. They were like almost satisfied enough with that. But yeah, just that one thing.
Okay. And was there any sexual assault that you saw between like staff and student or student on student when you were there or heard about?
I heard about student on student stuff, which amazed me because I was like, how, where, and why wasn't I involved? Well, like but like with like girls like having relationships, like not like sexual assault, but like girls like forming relationships. I was like, I wanted a little relationship, but the sexual assault between staff and students, I didn't see too much of that except for with the OBGYN that we had. He looked like something out of like a really bad like Italian what is it called? Like soap opera. So he had like the button down like Miami shirt with this god awful. It looked like a white fuzzy toupee of chest hair coming out of the top and this gold chain. And someone said that it had a dolphin on it. I don't remember the dolphin. I remember something dangling, but I just remember being traumatized. He was always in there way too long and like asking if things tickled.
Fuck no.
I remember there was a sign. I don't remember what the sign said, but I just remember just like asphyxiating on that sign, like just whatever I could do to get his like little poofy hair out of my face, like just trying to like not think about what was going on. Just like zombie answering any kind of questions he might have had. Um, we didn't wear gloves.
Wow.
And then I remember the nurse, Miss Cindy, just standing there, just like stiff as a board, just like almost like there to like pin you down if you were to like try to like resist or whatever. And yeah, that was probably the only thing that I personally experienced. And I know I'm not the only one that, he would be giving girls multiple pap smears, like girls that never even had sex, but he had to like reevaluate them and just 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 disgusting stuff.
Okay. And did you ever feel like super hopeless in the program? I know you said that you got points like fairly easy, but did you ever feel like hopeless and targeted in the program ever?
Targeted, no. Hopeless the entire time, even though I was like going through the motions and I was like doing what I was supposed to. Like I just was like, when is this gonna end? Like it just never seemed for sure that, because saw girls drop for small things. Like I'm so glad I didn't have some of the other therapists, like the scary therapists, like Ron June. Like I swear, hit Ron June and Parker. I swear they had a competition to see who could have the most girls in orange at any given time, because his girls dropped constantly up and down levels. Luckily, I didn't have that, so the hope was a little bit there, but just every day felt hopeless. You can't do anything. You have no rights. It's hard to not feel hopeless even when you're doing well, like in a place like that.
Okay. And did you spend any time in study hall or intervention?
Nope. I saw enough takedowns I mean, my whole buddy got taken down right in front of me like the first few days I was there. So that was traumatizing enough for me to keep my bullshit above a certain level.
Okay. And did you what was their policy on runners there? What did they tell you would happen if you ran? And were there any runners when you were there?
So I remember there was a lot of things that constituted as run plans, like wearing 2 pairs of socks, like looking out the window, like, whatever. Um, but I don't think we had any runners. I know that they would say like, oh, they would tackle you and then put you in ISO. And they always threatened Casa by the Sea or Tranquility Bay for like if you were to do something really, really bad. And actually one girl while I was there did get sent to Tranquility Bay. Which it didn't seem like a reality, and then that happened. I was like, okay, so I really got to keep my shit together because that was right when I first got there as well. So
Okay.
no runners.
Okay. What about did you hear about or see any like staff bringing like drugs onto campus or giving giving any to kids? And by drugs I mean like, any drugs like
No, not even candy, like,
okay.
like actual candy. They are. I mean, I'm not. I mean, I think maybe Mr. Robert would bring us candy every once in a while if we did one of the adventures with him. But no, not just like on a regular basis. Not like blatantly out in the open like that.
Okay. And what about grooming? Did you see any grooming or like did any grooming happen towards you when you were there?
I feel like the whole program was designed to groom us in general.
Yeah.
I remember Ron would call us all sluts and stuff and degrade us and bitches. Um, but I felt like that gave the reverse effect on what he was trying to do. Like, the whole grooming thing, like, kind of confuses. It doesn't confuse me, but it's just maybe it's because I was groomed that I have a hard time wrapping my head around it. I'm not sure, but I feel like that's what the program was designed to do, to groom us into their ideal human being.
Okay. And how long did your life contract last when you got home?
Not even a day.
Okay.
Not even a day.
And what do you think you needed instead of being sent away? What do you think would have helped you?
um, just my parents being a little bit more active. I mean, it was just me. It's not like that I had to compete with like any siblings. Like it was just me. But because of all the sexual stuff that happened when I was like younger, lived under a rock. Like I wasn't allowed to go anywhere. I wasn't allowed to do anything because my mom was like freaked out because it happened with like a neighbor that we trusted, right? So after that, I didn't have any friends. I wasn't allowed to do things. I literally lived under a rock. I wasn't allowed to watch like anything. I remember when I watched my first PG-13 movie when I was 13, and my dad had like the talk with me, like you might see stuff in this movie. Boop, 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 boop. Just ridiculous stuff. So just like a little bit more involvement on my parents' part, letting me be more like have a little bit more freedom, not like sheltering me in this box. Everything was taboo because they were so like Christian and without like so anti Harry Potter. Like I couldn't even do that when every kid in my school was reading the books as the books were coming out. Like I just needed a little bit more leniency so that when I did have the world kind of more exposed to me, I didn't just like go wild and get so overwhelmed that I wasn't making the right decisions because I didn't have those life experiences to like learn and figure things out.
Okay. And is there anything else you want people to know about your experience or anything that you might tell a parent thinking about sending their kid to a place like this?
If you're a parent trying to find a solution, there's something internal, like I said earlier, it's a two-way street. Like it's not just the kid that needs to change. Like something in the household needs to change as well. And being able to acknowledge that and setting that boundaries and respects for your child, like they're more than likely to see it and reciprocate it, even though it would take, like with anything, it does take time, because you can't just like change your ways and then be like, okay, you're gonna be okay with this, and this is, then now you have to change too. It doesn't work like that. It's just being, patient and love, and yeah, I know it's easier said than done, but all relationships are work, whether they're romance or family or, coworkers. Every relationship is work. And if you're not willing to put it in, you can't expect the other half to fill in the gaps for you.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. If you ever want to do a part 2, if things come up after this, and just make a list and we'll do part 2.
Okay,
And
yeah.
If you've watched this far in the video, please like the video, subscribe if you're not already, and share the video. We just need like 470 subscribers, and we will be monetized. Not that that's I started this, but that's awesome. You know what I mean? That's awesome. It means we'll be able to do a lot more and promote our work and get the word out there more. So thank you guys so much, and let's just continue kicking ass. And we will catch you on the next one. Bye, guys.